Hello and welcome to CEO Insights, the Living Organization podcast, where we explore topics of business and society. And I'm really honored to have Jens Molbak from New Impact, CEO of New Impact. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Vitaly.
We already started the conversation rolling, so my head is already going, whoa. This gentleman has spent.
We have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, well, how can we fit it all in 5-minute introduction? But why don't you have a go at introducing your passion right now with New Impact, what it stands for, and what problem it's trying to solve?
Sure. Well, what I really care about, I'm 62 years old, right? So I've been in the private sector for a long time, but for the last 10 years, I've been really on this mission to think about how do we solve societal problems at scale faster. We're all surrounded by challenges and issues from food, mental health, housing, to climate change. And I've been concerned that we're not getting to solutions fast enough. So at New Impact, we describe ourselves as business model innovators or organization model innovators. So we do three things. We are trying to pioneer a new mindset about how to build your organization to have it be stronger, faster, and more impactful. We call that Trisector innovation, or TSI. The second thing we do is we're tool builders. So we work with innovators and people who want to, like to say, people who give a damn and care and want to make a difference. And we give them tools to make the organization stronger, maybe by a little bit or maybe by a lot. And then last, we do some coaching and advisory work for organizations to help them get stronger faster. So three things: mindset, tools, and coaching is what we do in New Impact.
This is perfect because, listen, because I've done over 800 interviews now with
Wow.
CEOs. Yeah, it's probably, maybe 830. And the three components seems to be like a holistic model.
Yeah.
And what I was hearing you say is your concern is that we're not moving fast enough in resolving some of the pressing challenges, world challenges, not just the country challenges, but world challenges. And we're using maybe approaches that are kind of outdated, right? They're not providing the solutions or the results we want. I want to ask you this question. If everybody had your tools right now and everybody had the strategies and so on, what would still be the most difficult thing for them? Because I think you said three. Tools, repeat again.
Yeah. So first of all, I would love if every organization in the world adopted a Trisector strategy. The more we've been researching, we're still learning about them, the more powerful we think they are. So that's our vision. We'd love to see every organization be doing this. We think that'd be amazing. By organization, I mean every company from small, medium to large, every nonprofit or NGO, and importantly, every government entity from this. It's interesting, as we do the work, what we're finding is most challenging is it's hard to give people a new set of glasses, a new lens to see their organizations. So this is sort of systemic level change thing. So that's a challenge. So we're working on language and storytelling to try to say, people, there's a different way, kind of like there's been human-centered design or design thinking or agile. These are methodologies. So we've been working with universities and researchers and accelerators and incubators about ways to communicate this. The second thing is the actual work is, I can tell you beautiful stories about powerful Trisector models and businesses that scaled terrifically and embedded impact. And they're all pretty telling the story and looking backwards, but it's actually work. So we're building some new tools, and we're particularly excited about AI. We feel like AI actually might be the right technology that lets people find the resources they need to do these things and build compelling models. So we're really excited about the AI piece, and we're just releasing a new tool. People can find our tools on our website at newimpact.care. So the challenges are getting people to think differently and giving them easy tools that can kind of help teach them this stuff where they can see quick benefit, but also give them tools that can help really get into the deep work about creating small change or large change. And I want to go back, even though we think this could be applied globally, it's super, super pragmatic. So if you're running a small, tiny startup in your city, this applies. We'd say adopt a, a Trisector model. If you're running a, a global Fortune, 1,000 company, this applies. You can use it. If you're running a nonprofit, you can use it. If you're running a government entity, you can use it. I often like to say we're not about the what you're doing, we're about how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It scales at all levels. You're almost speaking, I mean, not almost, you are speaking the living organization language. We call it living organization, you call it Trisector, in the sense that we realize that this is a paradigm shift and it first happens in the mind.
Yeah.
It's a new way of seeing organizations. And what we recognize is the old way of seeing organization is more mechanistic, right? It's a clock, right? If we put all these parts together, and to shift it to this Trisector model, I'm going to just try it, requires a more living system approach, a living being approach, seeing organizations as a living entity, and right? And that's a very different way of seeing organizations.
Yeah, it's the sort of language we would use, if let's say I'm working with a company and, let's say they've been well trained, and I'll say, hey, tell me about your private sector strategy. What do you do? And I'll get a very good answer, like, they've gone to business school, they have lots of experience. But then I'll say, hey, how are you working with social sector organizations in the nonprofit? And they'll generally have an answer like, oh, we'll donate or volunteer. And I'm like, no, it means something different. Like, are there resources that exist in a nonprofit world that would be actually good for your core business, that could help you scale? And I can give them lots of examples of that. And are there resources that you have in your business that are good for the nonprofit, sort of a mutual self-interest? And people understand that piece. And then the last question I'll ask them is, how are you working with the government? And I'll often get pushback from private sector people like, oh, government's going to slow us down and tax us and regulate us. And what I'll say is there are actually amazing resources in government. So the company I built, Coinstar, which was a coin recycling system in the US and primarily in the UK, I mean, we created $1 billion company, which was great. But in doing so, we actually worked incredibly closely with the Federal Reserve System in the US, and we've saved the US government billions, probably 40 or 50 billions, because we created this national coin recycling system, right? Mm-hmm. And we didn't do it with a contract with the Fed. We did it by aligning self-interest, and they loved us. They helped us accelerate internationally and stuff, but we aligned the interest with the government resource, and it was a big benefit to them. Similarly, worked with the nonprofit sector, people like, UNICEF or Red Cross, and we facilitated donations. And it was about the design of the model that actually made it stronger. So people get excited when I talk about Trisector models like Coinstar, or there's another company, Propel, and who revamp food stamp systems. But to do the work takes a little bit of different thinking and some different tools as to what we're trying to do at New Impact.
That makes sense. Let me ask you this question. Why, do you remember back, why did you even care to have this direction? I mean, a lot of businessmen I speak to out of my head, they go like, I don't care. I have an ROI to do, and like all of this other stuff is just like soft stuff to me, honestly.
Well, I'll try to be quick on this. So you'll notice that our website is newimpact.care, because I think fundamentally it's about caring, right? And we're not a .com, we're not a .gov, we're not a .org, we're a .care. I guess let me just tell a bit of a personal story. My parents immigrated from Denmark, and they were raised during World War II with the Nazi occupation, and they came to the US in 48 and 50. And when they came to the US, what they loved was, I mean, they loved the free enterprise system, and they were entrepreneurs and stuff. So I was kind of raised in a family that thought about entrepreneurship and that sort of thing. But they'd also seen what happened when governments collapsed. So they really cared about good government and the value of citizenship, not in terms of immigration status, but being an active member of society. And they also brought with them sort of a Nordic sense of egalitarianism and communitarianism, I guess. So I guess I like to say I was raised in a Trisector household, and they just thought it was important, work in the private sector and contribute in the nonprofit sector and make sure you're active publicly. And I think the other story I always tell is when I was working in New York for an investment bank for my first jobs, it was really interesting. You're working 80, 100 hours a week in these tall glass buildings. But my nonprofit world was, writing a $10 donation check at the end of the year to the Cousteau Society. I don't even know if they're still around, and voting absentee late, and it just felt out of balance. And I really wanted a life for me personally, for my own career, where I could work in all three sectors. And the advice I got as a young man was first go to the private sector and,
make the
get
money.
yourself established. And then, volunteer at a soup kitchen, or if you're lucky, become a philanthropist. And then as you get older, give back and run for office, do public service. And then you retire, and then you die. And I was like, that's a 5-part career path. And can't you do all three at once, right?
That's right.
And
Integration.
so, yeah, so the motivation behind Coinstar, the reason I picked that, when I was 26, was like, oh, I can build a really interesting private sector company here and have fun being an entrepreneur. But I can also have a big impact on government if this is successful, and I can have it contribute to the social sector. So the motivation came from this sort of personal, the way I was raised, and the sort of personal desire to be useful and to serve in all three sectors. But I guess the last story I'll say is when I hit 50, and I've been doing a lot of private sector stuff, I just increasingly saw the lack of solutions, scaled solutions from the nonprofit sector and government. And I started thinking and reflecting on the work that I'd done at Coinstar. And I was like, maybe there's a seed of an idea here. So I thought about doing a lot of different things. I thought about creating a fund, thought about doing another company. But at the end of the day, I decided what we really need is a public good, a different way of thinking. And that's going to be the most scaled approach that can have the biggest impact. So that's really what's been motivating me, because I worry that we're not solving problems fast enough. You pick the problem, we all know them, but are we getting there? And if we don't get there quickly, what are the consequences of that? That's a long-winded answer to your question.
Thank you. No. Perfect. Gents, thank you so much. We could do more, but in today's limited time, I'd love to invite you back. We'll go much deeper into it. But for today, I really thank you. I think you provoked a lot of my executives on a new way of thinking. And I think even just by talking about it in your personal story, and then we'll have you back and we'll talk more on the how and the specifics later.
Yeah, I would say to your executives, think that building a trisector model can be a great opportunity for your company or organization. And we have resources on the website about getting started, and just email us and contact us. We are here to help organizations get stronger, be better, more impactful, and to be part of the solutions out there, whether that's small, medium, or large.
Thank you. It's definitely .care, so I can feel it from you.
Thank you.